Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. Thank you for joining me. Breaking just moments ago, although it's not a shock, is the Raiders have signed Sincere McCormick to the active roster, but it does dovetail into what I wanted to talk today about, which is the Raiders youth movement and the case for patience. The case for patience. Now, you should never have a patience in your life for mediocrity in any area. There's no room for that. But one of the things that I believe has hurt the Raiders for a couple of decades is the fact that there is literally almost no patience. So let me give you a couple of examples, okay? I took voluminous amounts of criticism last year by telling you the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season and all throughout the offseason, don't turn your back on Jacorian Bennett. They believe in Jacorian Bennett. This is a young kid that needs to, take some strides, but it's a development player. I talked to you about all of that. And I took a lot of people, he's terrible, he's trash, get rid of him. Well, now all of a sudden people are like, wow, this kid's really good. You saw with Colton Miller early in his career as he grew and went through a maturation process. Very few players come into the league and are great coaches. I mean, are great players. Okay. Bill Belichick fired in Cleveland. You can go through and name a lot of great coaches who were fired on the scrap heap, but then were able to turn things around and make something of themselves. Look at Baker Mayfield. Look at Geno in Seattle. Sam Darnold in Minnesota. And there is such a rush on guys now that people just want to throw them away. Now, I think some of that is a problem with our society. We're so used to our way right away that when we order food or anything else in our life, man, we all have to do is go on an app and order it and it's here that evening. That we don't understand some things require maturation. Some things require growth. I had a gentleman the other day send me an email. Him and his wife found out they're pregnant, wanted a little bit of parenting advice. And one of the things that I would tell you is I would hope sitting here today at 53 years old with a 2-year-old, I am a significantly, quantifiably better parent than I was when my first child came out at 23. I would hope that would be the case. I would hope all of us, as we do something, we're better at it. I'm now in year 5, almost to year 6 of covering the Raiders. I would hope I'm a better beat writer covering the Raiders today than I was then. And I would hope a year from now that would be the same testimony that I could have. And so what happens is I got an email, and I want to read this one because I thought it was very interesting. It comes to us from an M. Balieros, and I apologize for not pronouncing that correct, but first initial M, Balieros. And if I'm not pronouncing that right, please forgive me, Mr. or Miss Balieros. It says, Hondo, why wasn't Sincere McCormick playing before just the last couple of weeks? Whoever kept him off the field should be fired. Okay. I can respect people seeing that if Sincere McCormick had played this way. He hadn't. You may remember going into training camp, I wrote and I did podcasts about guys that have to make a move. And I said, this is the chance now for Sincere. This is his opportunity to make his move. In fact, let me just look at one thing super quick, if you don't mind. Bear with me. I should have done this before, and I take complete responsibility for it. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you. It didn't even cross my mind quantifiably. Um, as you know, in the NFL, and I'm looking for his information here. So please bear with me for just a quick second. Right, I don't see it. All right, I can't find it, so I'm just going to move on. But in the NFL, there is a process of which guys get better, of which guys learn the game. I'll never forget this one time hearing an NBA player talk to me about understanding how the NBA game went and learning when you could walk to conserve your energy and then when you couldn't walk, to conserve your energy. I thought that was very fascinating. And he just talked about, in college, they wanted you to go, 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 go. But in the NFL, they don't like to take you out. So, so you, I mean, in the NBA, they don't like to take you out. So you learn when to conserve your energy. It's a learning process. That's how the whole thing works. Okay, I'll give you another one. I got an email, and I'm not going to go through and find out who it was, from somebody, basically a very similar to the sincere one. Whose idea was it to let Josh Jacobs go? Look at how he's playing. Okay, let's stop for a minute and allow me to bring you back to reality. Okay, Josh Jacobs was injured a lot. He missed a lot of time. And then when he got to his big contract year for the Raiders, he was great. Then you may remember last year, he missed a ton of time. He was almost, went back to who he was. And even though it appeared he got a multi-year deal, the Green Bay could get out of his deal this year if they wanted. And so playing with that incentive, he's played very well. But the problem is he had a track record. You didn't know what you were going to get with him. So to say whoever let him go was wrong, well, if you judge him by this year's numbers, great, but not if you judge him by last year's, or even over in totality, his career with the Raiders, where he really had one great year and at the level of money that it would have required. It's development and it's context. Look at Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is considered by many one of the best head coaches in the NFL today. Still maturing and growing, by the way. But there were people who wanted him fired and gone a couple of years into his tenure in Detroit. But Detroit knew, we think this guy has it. He's got to grow. I went back and talked to you. You can go back and watch this. This is what I love about the digital age. There's proof of performance. I talked about this last year when the Raiders hired Antonio Pierce. Okay, you give a guy 20 games. Why? He's going to hire some guys that maybe don't gel with his style. We've seen that. He's going to have to get some guys in here. There's going to be some free agents that maybe doesn't work. Whatever. We talked about all of that ad nauseum because it's a growth period. But if you never stick around with somebody, I mean, there are people in Cleveland who would tell you Bill Belichick flat sucked as a coach. Now, could you say he's salty and surly? Mm-hmm. Of course you could. But I don't think anyone, even Tom Brady, who it's widely known him and Bill had a very cantankerous relationship, still has immense respect for for Bill Belichick. But there are people who would have given their life to bet Bill Belichick would never ever make it as a coach. And now there's going to be several teams that want him this year, after sitting out a year. And you don't know what you have in AP, but what you have seen is decisiveness. What you have seen is when staff wasn't working, he fired them. What you have seen is a willingness to say, this is what I want, a lack of coach speak, Dan Campbell. You've seen players improve and get better. You've seen that. You've seen it. And so, are you willing to throw away an AP because who may be a Dan Campbell? There's a lot of people that were willing to throw away Jacorian Bennett, and Sincere McCormick gets that opportunity, makes it happen. And on the Raiders right now, there is a youth movement. There is a movement. There's a bunch of young players. Now, Jackson Powers Johnson. Let's look at JPJ for a minute. Does he make some bad penalties? He sure does. But you know what? I heard a guy one time, a friend of mine who was a pastor named Lyndall Warren, and he made a comment one time, and I love the man. And he said, I'd rather have a little fire, wildfire, than no fire. He was also a cattleman. And one of the things is that, okay, I'd rather have an aggressive, fighting, tough, old school Raider player like a JPJ that has to learn to temper it. And I'm not saying he doesn't. Then a guy that, I don't care. Okay, Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule. He'll make some mistakes sometimes technique-wise. He keeps a lot of that aggression. He does a good job keeping the tiger in the cage. But he's going to learn those technician issues. They're both going to be. Would anyone argue the Raiders are not going to be exponentially better with those two young men with all the reps they're getting this year? Of course you would make that argument. Of course you would. I've heard people say you throw away Tommy freaking Eichenberg. Are you kidding me? Literally, are you kidding me? Tommy freaking Eichenberg? That guy has really shown some stuff. Okay, Divine Diablo's playing really well. Robert Spillane is a stud. So he's not getting as many reps as other people. That's a young guy. Just sometimes in our society, we are so quick in a lust for instant gratification that you don't. I've told you many times, you build the most successful franchises. They build through the draft. They aren't gamblers, they're investors, which is where Tom Telesco's done a really good job. I remember last year when they signed Gardner Minshew, and I told everybody, this is really a good deal. You get a proven backup. If he wins the job, fine, because you can't go get the quarterback that you want. But the way the deal is structured, the Raiders can walk away after 1 year, and it's okay. I mean, they're smart. They're not wasting money. Why? Because they understand good franchises, consistent winning franchises. Why is Dallas stunk? Because they've got all these huge contracts that are not good contracts. And they have not been investors. They've been gamblers. But yet, why do you see the Bills, the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Lions? Why are all the Steelers? Why are all the teams that are succeeding in the National Football League right now? Even look at the Rams. They're investors. They're not gamblers. They're letting people develop. They're letting the course take the time. But what happens is when you're sold by your franchise, just win, baby. Just win, baby. Just win, baby. And that's great. I have no problem with that mantra. Well, they just want to win. But is it just to get to the playoffs for 1 year? The Raiders are in the middle right now of trying to pull this franchise out of, okay, gee, let's hope every 5 years they get to the playoffs. And they're trying to build a long-term, sustainable, successful franchise. And they're taking the approach of development, investors, not gamblers. They're doing those things that are required of a team. You're seeing it with Sincere McCormick. You saw it with Malcolm Kuntz prior to the injury. You know, Aiden O'Connell still doesn't have 16, 17 starts under his belt. And look how he just played. He just had his best game of his career, where arguably anyone who would say, wow, if he played that way going forward, Raiders are in great shape. Same way with coaching. It's the same way with players. There's a youth movement underway. Yeah, there's some teeth, some coaches that are long in the tooth. You look at Marvin, great coach, better guy. Joe Philbin, great coach, better guy. North Turner, great coach, better guy. And you got some of those guys on there that are long in the tooth, but you also have a lot of young coaches on this staff, really young coaches. You got a lot of young, promising players. You start looking at that offensive line. Thayer Mumford before his injury, Delmar DJ Glaze, the Mule, JPJ, Dylan Parham. You know, you've got the Grizzly veteran in Colton, but I'm talking about youth right now. Jacoby Myers, DJ Turner, Trey Tucker, Sincere, Zamir, Diablo. Crosby is still young. He's not even playing his best football yet. Kuntz, if you decide to bring him back, Tyree Wilson. I mean, let's talk about Tyree for a minute. This is a guy that you can go back and watch the video of the draft when he was selected. I told you they're looking at year one as a redshirt year. They have no expectations of Tyree. They literally expect Tyree to just come in and get healthy. But the guy is freakish with his athletic ability and his want to and desire to learn. There's going to be a learning process. But year one is like a red shirt, and they're going to look at 2024 as really his freshman year, his rookie year. Okay? If you are, and just because of what happened with Chandler Jones, he had to play, but he wasn't even healthy. People are like, throw him away. Okay? But if you were being, even if you disagree with their thought process, if you were simply grading him that this was his rookie year, there's a lot of reasons to be excited about that kid. Cameron Richardson? Cam? I mean, Cam? You want to talk about that kid? You want to talk about what he brings to the table? You want to talk about what he offers to the table? You want to talk about the fight, the toughness that he brings? The stop, Dexter. You want to talk about the way that he works? Again, to Cameron Richardson, a rookie. A rookie. There's a lot of guys that are doing a lot of things. And listen, when you're 2-10, it doesn't matter because everybody's mad. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be. I'm not saying you shouldn't be mad at 2-10. This team is better than that. Hey, I think Dexter wants to say hi to everybody. Dexter, can you say hi? Hi. Can you tell them Merry Christmas? All right, Merry Christmas. And so, but what I'm trying to get the point across today is that there's a youth movement at every level of the Raiders right now. Listen, we have seen the best game from Aiden O'Connell. Okay? Anybody, even if you're his biggest critic, you would have to say he played very, very well against the Chiefs. That hasn't been the case this year. If I'm the Raiders, I'm absolutely still looking at quarterback. But if he were to play out the rest of the season the way he played last week, if the Raiders win a couple of games and getting Shedeur or Cam Ward is not in the cards, or maybe they don't believe in them, and I'm not saying they don't, and you got to take the best player available, so you end up getting a Travis Hunter or whomever, you just don't throw it all in. I got an email from someone the other day saying everyone in this organization should be fired for not getting a quarterback last year. Well, you can't get one if you can't trade up to get one. Can't do that. And so I understand people's frustration. I think everybody should be frustrated at 2-10. And I'm going to tell you this, I don't know all of you, but Mark Davis, Tom Telesco, Antonio Pearson, every player and everybody that takes a paycheck from the Raiders is frustrated at 2-10. So if you think you are, they are too. But at the same time, There are no moral victories in the NFL, but there are real steps towards positivity. And a youth movement gives that. A youth movement presents that as reality. So from me and Dexter to you, God bless you guys. Merry Christmas. There's a youth movement being served in Raider Nation. I hope you're enjoying it. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining us again today. Up, Dexter saying bye. We'll see you tomorrow.